All I'm going to do is to introduce them. Ajay, and the way we structured this discussion, I'm actually calling it a chat, is to bring four different kinds of outlooks into this chat. So Ajay is an operator of hotels in the main cities in secondary markets across multiple kinds of brand positioning, starting from the upper upscale down to the budget economy. Nirupa, two aspects. She is a owner of hotels, investor, developer of hotels on the one side. She also has a lot of experience in the real estate side, and therefore will bring us a little bit of perspective from the commercial real estate point of view, any changes in demand patterns there, etc., which could impact our industry. Lokesh Sabharwal heads development for Accor in India. Again, Accor with the luxury down to the ibises, again, a range of products. And I like Lokesh to talk about the supply side of things now and going forward. And Vikram Madhok, a very different aspect, concentrating on luxury leisure, bringing luxury leisure into India as far as we are concerned, and how is that going to play out? So it's different perspectives. I'm sure they're going to have a wonderful chat between themselves. Ajay, over to you, and have a good time.
Thanks, Ajay. Thank you very much. Do stay with us, though. Don't run away.
Okay. I thought you would want Nirupa on screen rather than me.
Well, we can have you all on screen. I think the screen is big enough, so not to worry. Coming from a part of the world where we love a certain amount of chaos and confusion, I think we have a surfeit of it at the moment. So like most other places in the world, or like a lot of other places in the world, we're also going through a scenario where really the adage, nobody knows anything, comes up again and again and again. We have had lockdown 1, which was anticipated, welcomed, and rather expected. We then had lockdown 2, which we patiently tolerated. We are living through lockdowns leading to a raised amount of frustration. And we have our Prime Minister speaking to us today about a possible lockdown 4, or perhaps a lifting of lockdown 3. So it's somewhat, it's unprecedented, it's unusual, it's special circumstances. Flanked and outnumbered by people from pure hospitality. So out of a certain deference to you and out of a certain level of politeness to you, bringing in the leisure factor, I'll address you first in our hot coffee meeting. You represent leisure, you represent luxury, you represent travel. How do you see all of this pan out in India in the next 12 months? How do you see a recovery? How do you see business? And there are certain things you can do in-house, but there are certain others, like the airline sector, where you're dependent upon recovery of airlines and planes taken to the skies. What's your feel, mate? Where do you position yourself now?
Thank you, Ajay. I think there are multiple lovely questions all rolled into that one, and I'm going to attempt answering them one by one. Let me preface this by saying that for all our businesses collectively has fallen off the cliff, and we don't know where this is going. To start with, yes, we are in the luxury space, but we are also in the first class business, and we are cutting across all lines. Besides Abercrombie in Kent, we also have a brand called Cox and Kings, and so on and so forth. And like my other brethren, we all are in this boat together. This pause button has been hit, and while we reset, I think this could take, to come and address the time frame that we can look at, perhaps bringing business back into India, hinges upon multiple balls in the air. And the first one being, when will international flights open up? When will borders open up? When will the government of India restore visas that have been issued, and then also issue out fresh visas? So these are many wild cards that are are currently looming in the air. But given this backdrop, I'm an optimist. While business is going to start initially, I would believe for the domestic market, doesn't really involve inbound players, but it could be neighboring countries. So you could have people coming in from in and around short flying times and going into remote locations, etc., etc. That could be anywhere between 6 months. Long haul, because India, by and large, is a long haul destination. So long haul, I see recovery anywhere beyond 9 months going to on the, while I've heard this, a lot of people speak about is luxury dead in the water. Is luxury completely gone? Actually, it's to the contrary. I see revival in the luxury space first. And while I'm sharing what I'm sharing, lo and behold, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, this morning, we actually have people, American agents, who have made reservations for multiple groups with money down, taking advantage of the good offers that we floated in February and March, and also paid deposits. Now, of course, the terms and conditions are completely fluid. We will do whatever it takes to make sure that business comes in. All this is hinged upon flights, borders, visas, so on and so forth. But the point is that it's not really dead in the water. It's going to come back. And when it comes back, boy, it's going to come back with a vengeance. I overheard, I think Vijay spoke about Mr. Oberoy's message. And he spoke about in the short term, we'll all have to work together. And I think to echo that sentiment, we all really have to work together to tide this situation, which is going to come together very nicely, I believe, in 2021, in the season, the fall of 2021. Coming to, of course, I only odd one out on this block. Let me pose a question to Nirupa, because I'm sure you're in the real estate business, you have hotels. How is this going to impact the real estate business, given that long-term commercial leases may be impacted? There's all this expression that's come from WFH, work from home, remote working. And another expression I've heard is repurpose your business. I mean, we've really, besides attaining doctorates in COVID-19 and about this deadly virus. So, Nirupa, I'm going to ask you, where do you see all this going, and how will it impact people like us who bring guests in? Are hotels under threat? Will luxury or first class or across all the food chain, is there a problem? Do we see an issue coming up? So Nirupa, on.
Okay, thanks for that, Vikram. And also thanks for the insight in your, so I will just I'll spend a minute just talking about the way that we sort of participate in. So malls, as you know, has come to a complete standstill. And I feel that the malls will take probably the longest to get back to where they were. But currently we have about 3 malls and all of them are shut completely. On the residential real estate side, things were going pretty well till about March. Even during the first few days of lockdown, we still had some bookings. But I think April drop in even the residential bookings, and that is a little worrisome because, for real estate developers, the main cash flow and bread and butter comes from the residential bookings. And unless that business is doing well, it's very hard for us to, spend that money on the hotel business and create these new hotels. residential will pick up sooner than malls and hotels and offices. But going on to the office space, like you asked, in April, you'll be happy to know that we had 95% of our occupants actually pay their rent in April. So we haven't seen much traction in people saying that they can't pay their rent, because most of our clients are also the MNCs who have taken these long 9-year leases. Going forward, we don't foresee the office business to try and renegotiate their long-term leases with us. We expect that rentals will continue to be paid. And the main reason I say this is because, whatever said and done, even if people are working from home, we still have to keep their infrastructure in terms of their servers and their skeletal staff. We have to keep our offices open, ensure that the servers are working, ensure that the place is sanitized so that skeletal staff can still work from the main head office, located in wherever our buildings are. But that said, I feel for new leases, companies might decide that they want to take a couple of months to gather their bearings before they sign on to long-term leases. Also, with regards to work from home, we are all doing it right now. But I think there is still, and some people say, okay, productivity might be better because there's no commute and you have this, you can work from your house at the convenience of your time and all that. But in the end, for innovation to really happen, people do need to come together to their office space. And while work from home is fine for a short period of time, I think there is some sort of urgency, or there is some desire for all our staff to actually come to office, meet people, because unless you collaborate, it's very hard to build a culture or to create innovation when you're just working from home. In fact, I think just yesterday, Eric Schmidt of Google had said that he actually expects the demand for office space to increase because of the kind of social distancing required between each of the various cubicles. Instead of keeping it at, say, 75 or 85 square feet per person, they might want to increase it to, say, 100, 125 or 150 square feet. So the demand from the large companies that are still growing and wanting large leases, that might actually increase. Lastly, coming to hotels, we have 7 hotels. We have actually closed 4 of them, and 3 are operating because there are guests in them. They were all running at nice mid 70 to low 80 type occupancies, but obviously they've all come to in terms of their occupancies. From a developer standpoint, I think hotels, like you pointed out, it might be the last. We'll have to think twice before putting more money behind the hotels until we see some sort of improvement. What we as a company plan to do is, wherever there's a mixed use development and we have partners or joint venture partners or landowners, we are continuing to commit and fulfill our commitments there. But in places where we own the land and there is no rush to kind of or meet a deadline, we are actually putting a stop to the construction till we have more clarity on how the industry will go and what kind of bounce back we can expect. So that was the update from my side. I would actually like to go on to the next question and pose it to Lokesh on the same supply standpoint. What are the changes that you're anticipating? Are you foreseeing any delayed projects, canceled projects, any demand for any alternative products that you're seeing? And what is...
So very simply, and in light of what we're seeing today, I'm somewhat constrained there, I do see the pace slowing down. That's without a doubt. The overall pace of development in the country for new hotels across segments and across brands, we definitely will see an impact. But I think we need to break this down possibly into a short-term, medium-term, and a long-term impact of sorts. And I think it will play out slightly differently for each. The hotels which are presently under pre-opening, have a pre-opening team in place, or about to go into pre-opening, ideally, hopefully have all their financing in place. So I think we'll probably see them reduce the exposure, delay hiring where possible, relook at the pre-opening plan, relook at the scale up. In cases where the pre-opening can actually be delayed, I see some of our partners across the industry looking at possibly either delaying it or using the time for training, desnagging, etc., but at a lot slower pace. Hotels under construction where financing's in place and it's really too far down the track towards the last legs or part of a mixed-use development, as you said. I see them continuing, but definitely a lot slower. There's a restriction on construction, restriction on manpower, possibly a restriction on material that's available, supply that needs to come in. I think where we look at medium term or long term, can probably play two ways. One, projects where funding early stages of civil construction, where perhaps even civil's complete, we'll definitely see a slowdown. Again, shortage of material funds, material, manpower, etc. But most importantly, I think a lot of developers, investors will need to relook at how they finance these projects. As in the previous session, Mr. Saraf he's spoken very clearly about it. And I think the debt equity mix, the ability to leverage, the ability to raise funds is going to be very constrained. So the right projects will also run the due course as to how the lending institutions look at them. We may see certain projects sitting it out, certain just being abandoned or being left to come back to it another day, again, depending on the status. And then I see, when we say long term, I see projects going back to the drawing board completely. I think the formula we've used for the last few years in general about rooms, a large amount of banqueting, all-day dining, an Indian restaurant and a bar, and assuming the big fat Indian wedding will happen, I think that's going to be a non-starter for a while. The project feasibility, or more simply the way we look at it when we're designing the area plan for these projects, the conversation between the development teams, the investors, the operations team, the technical services team, I think they will get more detailed and involved with the overall project pace slowing down. I think a big question is going to be, does the customer need it? Is there a different way of looking at it? I see an assessment of back of house requirements, staffing requirements. What more can be outsourced? Is it possible to outsource bakery products tomorrow? We're talking about laundry today, but is it possible to outsource getting cut vegetables? And just simple examples, but I think we're going to be spending a lot more time on the back of house, on the staffing and the overall build up. I think we're going to take some learnings, and this I'm saying is for the projects that do continue, from simpler products like an ibis, like a ginger, and see what plugs in. It's a good reset button. Definitely, as I said, a slowed down pace, but a relook at the new supply that comes on board and how we actually go about defining these hotels. But again, big part of this is going to be operations. So actually, I think it'd be ideal if I ask Ajay the next part, that you have hotels which are operating in various segments, any second tier markets, third tier markets, with some of the points that I just said, and again, the way these are designed, you see going forth in these segments.
You answer that. I have a question for Lokesh, if I might interject, please.
Firstly, I'll go through a little bit of what our research says in terms of how we're going to see hotels and business pan out in the near future. We are operating 20-25% of hotels at the moment. Some 4 or 5 of them with decent occupancies, the rest of them with 5, 10, 15% occupancies. But our feedback from our customers, from our data, from all the conversations we had in the last month or two, suggests that the larger cities are going to lead the revival or the comeback. They're going to respond to the metros and the mini metros. We also believe that there is a strong opportunity for leisure that's located 1, 2, 3 hours driving distance of a large city. There is enough feedback to suggest that people are now tired of being locked down and want what is being coined as a revenge holiday. So anyone located within driving distance, and driving is a major benefit because there's no public transport involved. There's no going to an airport or an aircraft involved. So if I can hop into a car in Chennai or Bangalore and get to Pondicherry, I see a strong revival in a Pondicherry sort of scenario. We also feel, perhaps we're a little biased, that if the size of hotel or resort is smaller, the recovery would be faster. There is a perception that if you go to a smaller place, you are most of it, and perhaps if you have the right number, you can take it all over yourself. Fourthly, I think we will really have to engage our customers a lot more in the pre-reservation stages, whether it goes through a portal, through an OTA, whether it goes through our own website. When the reservation process starts, we need to start curating and start finding out what the person really, really wants and get a lot of questions out of the way before he walks in the doors. Having said that, my biggest issue is not how I'm going to handle my operations. We are well organized for that, and there are plenty of things one can do. We have a peculiar situation in India, and the situation is that employment means basic survival and feeding yourself for a large number of people who are working on the bottom of the chain. Now, we've all said if business goes down from an 80% to a 30, 40%, we don't need the people. So the biggest question for hoteliers to grapple, and the biggest question we are grappling with at the moment, is how do I hang on to as many jobs as is possible without being emotional or sentimental about it, and at the same time bringing in efficiencies? In the Western world, or in certain parts, even in places like Japan or China, which is differently controlled, if I lose my job, I'm paid in part or full by the state. In India, if I lose my job, I go hungry. In worst case scenario, I hang myself. And these are realities. So in that situation, while it is paramount that we will need to compromise some jobs, because if I just run a business for 3, 6, 9, 12 months, I can't hang on to all my people. We will make every possible effort to work through deep salary cuts, but hold on to the bottom end of the pyramid and make sure they are as little affected as is possible. And that's the largest issue we're grappling with at the moment. It's not so much on the operational side of things. Operationally, hygiene, sanitation, WHO standards, what's happening to when employees are coming in, what's happening when a guest is coming in, how much more effectively or efficiently am I cleaning my rooms and my public areas and my toilets and the door handles. All that, I'm sure all of us are working towards. Communication, all of us are working towards. But really, my big equilibrium on at the moment is how can I hold on to the largest number of people that is possible. To me, that's really, really, really the crux of the situation. Wait to see what announcements come today. There is a fair degree of confusion. The rule book says hotels are not supposed to be operational. We are operating 20 hotels. So we hope some of that gets cleared from time to time. Nirupa, I'll come back to you. You are the investor in this picture. You promoter. Now you said you want to wait and watch and see if hotels make sense or not. But really, from a hotelier point of view, how do I build confidence in the investment community, in the banking community? What would you do if you were in a typical hotel manager's place or a small hotel investor's place? Nirupa?
Thanks for that, Ajay. So I must tell you that for the past 10 years, I've been working for 10 years. And for pretty much the entire 10 years, I've been sort of defending our foray into the hospitality space, because bankers and investors generally don't like the product. And we are always questioned as to why we are in the hotel space, because obviously the payback period is the longest. There's the most volatility in the hotel space. Once the hospitality REIT had some clarity to it, and there was a possibility that we could have more hotel IPOs and hotel REITs, and there's an exit possibility apart from just a third-party purchase, the hospitality industry saw a pretty good response from the investor side as well. As you know, any investor, before they put in money into your company, they will ask you, what is my exit? So having a good exit is probably the most important factor to even get the money inside from an investor. Apart from that, the basic financials have to make sense, right? The common question that I'm often asked is, why should I invest in a hotel? The returns are lower than what I would get if I put in a bank, right? If I just put in a fixed deposit, or if I put in my mutual funds, what is the incentive for me to invest in hospitality if the returns are better by doing nothing and just putting it in, say, a fixed deposit or a mutual fund, a bank interest? So I would say this is probably a good reset to sort of look at how we can economize on our hotel products so that we are spending less on the capex, and also from a brand standard perspective to see what brand standards we can do away with and how to build hotels in a very cost efficient manner. And secondly, from an operator's perspective, obviously the large extent, but there are some things that we can do to keep the rates at a decent pace, or at least keep our GOPs at a healthy rate. I think that will be the efficiency of operation important factor, and the return on investment will be the most important factor. So I think as an operator, to understand from a hotel owner's perspective, I bank loans. What is the amount you need to service your debt on monthly basis, so that they may tailor their GOPs according to that debt service amount. Because from an owner's perspective, when we come up with the budget for the hotel or the GOP requirements, I actually only look at what is the amount I need to what amount do I need to service my debt, and based on that I kind of work backwards and say tell the hotel operators or our general managers, hey, this is what we need to service our debt. Please see if you can cover it, or at least come as close as possible. So I think that would be the most important. One is obviously the return on investment. So if operators could actually ask hotel owners and sort of get into the capex also required to build the product that they desire and service. Does that answer your question, Ajay?
Last question, last quip, something you want to add?
Ajay,
we might have overshot our time.
Ajay, I have a comment, please. I think we're sort of
if you overshot our time, folks, thank you very much for listening in to us. But Lokesh, carry on till they throw us out.
No, I think Vijay is saying something. I think
we lost Lokesh. Nirupa, thank you very much. Vikram, thank you very much. Vijay, thank you very much. And for whoever listened in to us or saw us streaming in, thank you for your patience. Thank you for your time. Good luck to all of us. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And I just want to bring up the next panel. We've got Ajay Bakaya, we've got Lokesh Sabharwal on